Now, one of the things, and Dennis alluded to it, is some lawsuits. And the 30 in-house attorneys. Yeah, they have more than 30 attorneys full-time. They also have over 2,000 attorneys throughout the United States that provide what's called pro bono, that's free legal services. And what they do is they sit around and they figure out who can we sue, and they sue lots of defenseless people, innocent people, and they've got the staff to do it. And they got the financial resources to do it. And as I said, they're like a schoolyard bully. And you know, one of the things I've learned in life is that sometimes the deceitful people are finally exposed. And the tragedy is the American public, tens of millions of people, believe that they are doing the Lord's work. And when someone talks about the Lord's work, I think of a quote from a biblical quote, the Corinthians. Often Satan masquerades as an angel of light to deceive us. And I personally think the same can be said about HSUS masquerading as an angel of light to deceive the American public. And thus far, they've done a real good job of doing that. They've spewed out a lot of disparaging road apples about all of you, too. Not just dogs, but farmers, ranchers, anybody having to do with animals. McDonald's, I mean, they're disparaging McDonald's because, my God, McDonald's won't sell the egg muffin with cage-free eggs. But, you know, they talk about a lot of litigation, but they don't talk about a lawsuit that was filed early last year. And it was a byproduct of something they did about 3 or 4 years ago. They went around and, my God, they sued the Feld Corporation. Now, most of you probably don't even know what the Feld Corporation is. It's the parent company of Ringling Brothers. And they accuse Ringling Brothers of abusing circus animals. What they didn't count on is that Feld Corporation had the resources to spend several millions of dollars defending itself. And after several years of expensive litigation, a federal judge dismissed the lawsuit. And you know what those nasty people, those nasty owners of the circus, Ringling Brothers, did? They turned around and they sued the Humane Society of the United States. And they also named the ASPCA. And they also named a senior attorney on the HSUS staff. And you know what they alleged? Oh my God. They alleged a violation of RICO. RICO, the RICO statute. The R in RICO stands for racketeering. The C stands for corruption. And the other allegation had to do with money laundering. In the horse world, you might have heard of trifecta. That might turn out to be a trifecta for that lawsuit. That case is pending, but HSUS doesn't talk about it. They don't want the American public to know that they've been accused of racketeering, corruption, and money laundering. But their day of reckoning may very well come. But they do go out and harass and harass. And many years ago, I worked as a judge advocate. I was in the Air Force for over 25 years. And an old curmudgeon base commander said to me one morning, he said, I don't want problems. You come to me with solutions. And I've got a couple of courses of action that I think could add to a solution. What to do about a problem like the Humane Society of the United States. One thing, and there's a handout in the middle of the table there. I've handed out, there's something called the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act. It's a federal statute. It's a federal terrorism statute. And it expands the definition of who is covered by an animal enterprise. And the operative thing is, if anyone engages in interstate commerce, and if someone's using the website or the email or whatever, that's interstate commerce, to mess up your life, you may have a violation there. And what I'm suggesting that everyone do is not only take a copy of that, read a copy of it, but do one other thing. Tell your story. And you know who you need to tell your story to? Everybody needs, if you have anything to do with animals, if you don't know your local sheriff, shame on you. Get out and introduce yourself to the sheriff. And if the ACOs, the animal control officers, haven't already been infiltrated by the AR surrogates and HSUS surrogates, share a copy with them, the ACOs and the sheriff, of the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act. A lot of people don't realize what that is. It's a federal statute. It gives the Federal Bureau of Investigation the authority to do something when somebody does something bad to you. Now, some people at the lower level of FBI, they don't even know about it. But that John Lewis and Dennis's slide, he testified before Senator Orrin Hatch in 2006 saying we need to expand the definition of animal enterprise so we can go out and do something about these domestic terrorists. Share the information. If you feel comfortable with your sheriff and you've got a good operation, you ought to invite the sheriff out. Because all of a sudden, if he realizes that you've got a good operation going on, and when some AR sympathizer shows up and says, oh my God, you got to help us, these horses out there, these horses, they're emaciated, and when it rains, they have to stand in the rain, and they get mud on their hooves, it's awful, you got to do something, we got to seize those animals. Some sheriffs have gone along with the idea, say, oh yeah, and they get a warrant. You want that sheriff to say, where in the hell are you coming from? Get the hell out of my office. Do yourself a favor. And if they know about you and they know about the animal enterprise, that's how you can stop some of these warrantless searches and seizures or improperly issued search warrants. That's something. And now, what does Mr. Pacelli think about the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act? Well, that scurrilous Frank Losey, he had the audacity to write to him and ask him a question, and then he got a parsing, mealy-mouthed answer, and he wrote back again. And that other quote at the top is from the letter that Mr. Pacelli sent to that scurrilous Frank Losey. And he, in effect, said, not in effect, one sentence out of it was, if you can't read it, this nation has a strong tradition of civil disobedience, where people in a transparent, peaceful, nonviolent way take action to draw attention to unjust laws. He was referring to the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act, a federal terrorist statute, as an unjust law, and civil disobedience is the appropriate way to get rid of an unjust law. And who defines civil disobedience? The same person who defines animal abuse, Mr. Pacelli and HSUS. Do yourself a favor, circulate that and understand it. And also, if you are involved with an incident, document it. Write a letter to the FBI and say, I've been a victim, please help me. In Missouri, the Humane Society of the United States filed a Freedom of Information lawsuit against over 1,000 breeders. And I believe over 300 to 400 of them, in their responses back to the Justice Department, also copied the FBI and said, this is a violation of the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act. What we need to do is create a lot of dots. The FBI, after 9/11, found out about the phrase, connect the dots. And you need, if you're involved, make another dot. Help add to the dots. The second action, I'm asking for your help. I'm here begging you, I'm imploring you, I'll get down on my bended knee and ask you. There's another paper in the middle there. It's a call to action. For over 2 years, I have been trying to figure out a way, and I've been working on it, to put the cancer in remission. All these victims are really symptoms of the disease, and the disease is, I hate to tell you, but I believe it's HSUS. They are, in the United States, the real disease. Oh, they're smooth, they're polished, but they're cancer. And I remember reading about Al Capone. He did a lot of bad things. And what brought him down? The IRS. So for the last 2 years, 2+ years, that scurrilous Frank Losey has been submitting documents to the IRS. To date, over 1,400 pages of incriminating documents showing lobbying activities excessive and prohibited, and they may have underreported their taxes by over $500 million. That's $500 million. If any of you underreported $5,000, the IRS might come and beat you up. What I want to see happen is the HSUS is drawn and quartered and put into the IRS slaughterhouse. That's what we need to do, is put them in the slaughterhouse. And the way you do that, and the way you can help me, is earlier this year I encouraged, and we had over 6,000 citizens from all 50 states. They wrote letters to the IRS and said, you've got to do something about these people. That was even before we found out about the $500 million of underreported income, potentially. And what do we have now? Right now, the IRS has assigned a tax fraud case number, 29-92012. And when all those letters came in, all of a sudden that resulted in, and that girl is Frank Losey, might have done something behind the scenes too there also, but the Office of the Inspector General for Tax Administration for the Department of Treasury has also assigned a case number. And what I'm asking for your help, we want to generate thousands of emails, letters, phone calls, faxes to the hotline office. That handout tells you where to send it, the address, and if you do that, please let me know about it, either by mail or email, blind copying or whatever, because if we can generate thousands, I believe that I can whisper into the ear that scurrilous Frank Losey, and he just might have an idea about how to expedite the trip of the HSUS to the IRS slaughterhouse. Now, if there's anyone in here from the AR community or sympathizers, my name is Frank Losey, and I believe, based upon my interpretation of the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act, I can be covered by that, and I know how to report to the FBI. One other thing to all of you good people, thank you for listening and happy trails.